Windows has ruled computers for decades, but something's changing. More and more people, from everyday users to even the king of YouTube, PewDiePie, are ditching Windows and embracing Linux. But why now? Is Linux really ready for everyone? Let's find out. So let's start with the numbers. Linux market share has remained relatively stable in the past years, but now growing rapidly. In 2023, Linux global market share has about 3%, and by mid-2025 it's surpassed 5%. In the US, when you combine Linux and Chrome OS, which is also Linux-based, the total reaches to almost 10%. And in places like India, it's become the second most popular desktop operating system, and that's a massive shift. It took Linux 8 years to grow from 1% to 2%, and then just over 2 years to hit 3%. And now it's climbing past 5% in less than a year. That may not seem like a lot, but in a short amount of time, it's huge. Now, Linux is gaining momentum, but just not because it's getting better. A big reason is because Windows is getting worse, a lot worse. Windows users often experience a significant slowdown in their systems over time, which is a common issue that I've seen firsthand. And this isn't anecdotal. There's been numerous reports of people having their computers that aren't working after prolonged use and getting much slower. There's several factors that contribute to this performance degradation. One major culprit is the accumulation of unnecessary features and unwanted software. Microsoft often pre-installs or pushes features that users don't need or want, and they can be difficult to remove. This unwanted software often runs in the background, consuming valuable resources. So to counteract this bloat, users are often forced to invest in more powerful and expensive hardware, which creates a cycle where as Windows demands more resources, the cost of capable computers increases. So let's switch over to my desktop real quick. I'll show you guys an example of how this is. So as you can see here, I'm running pretty good, just at idle. I got nothing else open, minus OBS of course. 2.2 to 5 CPU roughly. My memory is at 2.3 gigs out of 15, almost 16. Use space, that doesn't matter right now. But this is how we're doing. So we'll look a little bit different in like what Windows will be like, but overall it's doing pretty good. It's chilling, right? It's not going crazy. Look, I have like less than 2 gigs of RAM, a little over 2 gigs of RAM, just chilling right now. Network's chilling. Now if I spam this will definitely bring it up, but not by a lot. Look, I can spam this as much as I want, right? I'm gonna spam this like 20 times, and you can see even the CPU doesn't even max like 12 or 13%. My memory's fine, and I am still able to do anything I want, really. Just really nice. Now here we are on the Windows desktop that I have, and if you're spamming the Windows key, it actually goes up to 90, almost 100%, which is crazy. It is just wild. All right, now we're back. So another issue is Microsoft forcing TPM 2.0 in all Windows 11 systems, and they are also requiring your computers to have TPM 2.0 before you can upgrade from Windows 10 to 11. On a side note, for TPM 2.0, if you didn't know, is a security chip either built into your CPU or motherboard. New computers made since 2016 are equipped with TPM 2.0, but if you have a computer older than 2016, it's less likely to have TPM 2.0. So what happens if your computer doesn't have TPM 2.0? Well, too bad. You can't use it for Windows 11. And guess what? Windows 10 reaches end of life in the end of October. Alternatively, Microsoft recommends you either purchase security updates or buy a new computer to get on Windows 11. I don't know about you, but you probably don't want to create more e-waste by throwing away your computer, perfectly good one in fact, or you don't want to spend money to upgrade your computer or pay for security updates. Another concern are the forced Windows updates. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but Windows updates frequently requires reboots as well. Have you ever been in the middle of gaming or writing something important and your computer reboots randomly at the worst time? Yeah, it happens to me too. Anyway, I digress. Another concern is the intrusive spying on everything that you do. Microsoft collects a significant amount of data on Windows about who you are, your Microsoft account, your search history, and many other things. You can't even search your local files without Microsoft wanting to know what you're searching. They try searching the web, and it's just absurd when you're trying to find something that you just downloaded or some document that you have on your desktop. I'm not trying to search the web. Even the king of YouTube himself complains about Windows. See here.
For years, I have been tortured by Windows. But now, alas, I am finally free!
And in my experience, this is typically how it goes. He's done an enormous service to the community by switching over to Linux and showcasing what he's done so far. Honestly, if PewDiePie can do it, anybody can do it. So why are people turning to Linux? Let's break it down. First, Linux is completely free, doesn't require any licenses or subscriptions, and you can get started pretty quick. If you have a fast internet connection and a USB drive, all you need to do is download the file, flash it onto your USB drive, and plug it into your computer and boot it up. It's super easy. You don't even have to install it if you don't want to. You can just try out a distro, and if you don't like it, you can try out another one. And when you're ready, you can install it onto your system. You can't say the same about Windows. Windows does require a license and a Microsoft account without bypassing it manually, and they want you to have internet. There are many things that they want you to do in order to even just use your computer. Another thing too is you can't customize Windows as much as you can for Linux. I mean, with Linux you can change anything you want, anything you can think of, but you're lucky to be able to move your Windows button from the left-hand side from the middle. And they changed it in Windows 11 where you can't even move the taskbar anymore from the middle to the left or to the right or above, which is absurd. Also for Linux, there are tons of apps. Most are open source and free, not all of them, but there are a lot. There are office suites, video editors, and a lot of other applications. A lot of those are open source and free, which have considerable savings, especially for businesses that utilize a lot of these software. But on Windows, they're paid, like Adobe Photoshop, which there are alternatives, such as DaVinci Resolve, available on Linux and Windows as well. There's also Photoshop that's on Windows, but you can use Linux. There is also Photoshop, which is paid for, but you can simply use GIMP on Linux, which is free. And I know it's still has some work in progress, but it's come a long way. Another is Microsoft Office. An alternative to that is LibreOffice, which saves a significant amount of money in the long run and privacy. Next, we'll talk about privacy. So unlike Windows, Linux doesn't track you. There are no built-in telemetry or ads or AI trying to learn your habits. You don't need a Microsoft account. You don't need an internet connection to install Linux. Another big plus is being able to run Linux on old hardware. Do you have an old piece of hardware that can't be upgraded to Windows 11 or really, really old, even older than Windows 10? Well, you can use Linux to breathe new life into it. And Linux is optimized for performance even on low-spec machines. There are tons of lightweight distros and Linux distros that you can try out that'll turn your 10-year-old PC into a daily driver. And it's also famously stable. Linux is. It powers 100% of the world's supercomputers and 62% of servers. Many of Linux users go months without restarting their machines. Man, wouldn't that be nice? Another plus is security. It has a great permission system, open source, which means that everyone can interpret the code, at least the source code, which makes it harder for malware to thrive. Any updates are quick and often faster than those from Windows. And that sounds great with Linux and all, but what's the catch? As expected, it is a little different. You will have to learn a few things like the command line. It can be intimidating at first glance, but you can adapt pretty fast. And there are some other things like Photoshop and Office don't run natively on Linux. However, I mentioned that there are alternatives and they work perfectly fine. You can even run Photoshop and Word and things like that, the Office suite, on Linux by just emulating them. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's definitely doable if you really want to hang on to those Windows apps. Next, we'll talk about gaming. Another advantage lately has been gaming. It used to be Linux's weakest link, but now it's easier than ever to game on Linux. Valve's Steam Deck runs Proton and plays most Windows games with just a few clicks. Their performance proves to be surprisingly good and often even better of that in Windows. More developers are also optimizing for Linux, and it's not perfect. Some games don't work on Linux, however, it is catching up quick. So should you switch to Linux? I personally have, and after 6 months, I can say with confidence, I'm not going back. You get better privacy and control over your computer. You can repurpose old hardware and prevent e-waste, and you don't have to deal with the Windows bloat. And lastly, you get to learn how your system works and make it work for you. Isn't that what computers are for? So Linux isn't just for developers and tech geeks anymore. With distributions like Linux Mint, Ubuntu, Zorin OS, it's easier than ever to use. It's huge and growing every day, and you can get help from forums, subreddits, Discord servers, and there's always someone ready to help. The desktop landscape is ever changing. A changing Linux is growing. Windows is being questioned, and users are waking up to a new era of choice. Try Linux. Check links in the description if you've already switched. Tell us how your experience has been in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and share if you found this helpful. And if you'd like to learn how to set up Linux for the first time, check out this video here.